Writing a novel is very difficult. For those that are following this channel that are writers and authors, people that are interested in the writing process, which is, I'm assuming, everybody for the most part, unless maybe you like my chess content, or maybe you just like to watch somebody type at a keyboard every morning. But if you're on board, if you're watching this channel, I assume you probably are interested somewhat in the writing process. So me saying that is not new, but I don't think many civilians, many people I'll just call lay people outside the writing field, actually understand how difficult the writing process really is. I think it's because people who are not writers, they tend to, what I found is they tend to think that because they have thoughts and ideas, they have an imagination too, and they have this sort of like, oh, this would make this whole story in my head here would make a really good book someday. They have that feeling that they tend to think that writing must be really simple because they too get the ideas. They tend to think that the ideas are where the stories come from, not the actual act of writing, and that putting words down on the page is simply a very simple in-between thing. It's a simple like, oh yes, yeah, it's all, I know I have the idea. All I have to do now is just put it on a page, and the story's there. They don't understand narrative technique. They don't understand all the intricacies, the challenge of just trying to get a sentence to sound coherent, let alone write a whole book. But writing a novel is very difficult. And I don't think that people need to have external problems making it more difficult. If you're an aspiring author, you don't need to have things outside of your life or outside of the keyboard here to make the writing process any more difficult. And I found that the thing for me that often makes it more challenging, this writing process, is that I have people who I consider friends, some extended family, that are basically, for lack of a better word, haters. I think I've used the term wishy-washy friends before. I've used that before. People that in general, you get along with, always casual, the sort of people you see at like a barbecue or whatever, that all get along with. But when it comes to the writing process, they're not supportive. In fact, I have some people who I once considered friends, and some that are family members that actively mock my ambitions, that mock my dreams in this whole process, that think that I have this sort of pie in the sky kind of thinking or whatever. And worse, they actively say, without reading my work, that my writing must be terrible, without ever having read a single thing. And for a long time, I had an attitude of let them continue to hate, keep them within your life, because outside of this area of my life, outside of writing, they're very kind, and again, we get along well and social and all that stuff, so keep them around, and in fact, use their sort of dismissive hater, quote-unquote, nature as fuel, as sort of a motivator, something to keep you on the path. But what I've found, and this is kind of getting to the message I'm trying to get across here, is that attitude that I was maintaining of keep them within your life because their hatred, their dismissive nature can kind of fuel you, is really just a form of Stockholm syndrome. Right, it's no different than the captive falling in love with their captor, or perhaps even like the stereotypical abused spouse defending their abuser's actions by saying, oh, they really love me. Right, it's a comparable thing. I don't ever make a direct comparison because one is far worse than this, but it's of a similar nature. And one of the things I've done over the past months has been to slowly wean these people out of my life. Family members, obviously, you can't really ever really get rid of. outside of one family member I can think of. I have never really been able to ever cut any of them out of my life. But the friends and all that stuff, I've slowly begun to distance myself. And the reasoning for me is very kind of what I just said here, right? It's a very difficult process. My ambitions are very large, and I don't need people dragging me down along with it. I don't need additional problems. If anything, I'd like a good cheerleader. But if not that, I just don't need you being a problem. And I think what really hit me was there was a gentleman who, back when I was doing the powerlifting before my injury, I had trained with a couple times. He often had a really good quote. This guy holds the world record in the squat at 275 pounds in equipped powerlifting. He once said that you need to have people in your life that are on your train. And if someone is not on the train, they're on the tracks and you need to run their ass over, is basically what he said. This guy is very, very direct. He very ambitious individual. He's someone that basically I think he got out of prison, whatever, basically, and with nothing, no money, nothing at all, basically just a van, just moved to Ohio basically to train at a gym, and basically with no money at all, basically got the world record, and now he runs a very successful gym here in New Hampshire. So, excellent individual, but very, very direct. And the sentiment is accurate. It really is. You need to have people that are on your train, that are with you. It's very extreme. It's very extreme to say, listen, you're either on my side or I'm running you over. You're either with me or you are completely against me. There's no wishy-washy. There's no in between. There's no God, what's that biblical quote? You can't be lukewarm or I'll spit you out, or something like that. It's something from the Bible. I'm trying to think of other comparisons to literature or something like that. But you can't be in between. You can't have the in between in your life. And I'm finding that more and more, despite my ambitions, despite perhaps my desire to keep those in my life, to kind of have this sort of happy medium, it's not possible anymore. It's becoming more and more apparent to me that no, I need people that are backing me. And if you yourself are going on this path here and you have those people that are haters, that are, you're supposedly your friends, but they're not really backing your ambitions. They're not someone who's supportive of you, and are even potentially, actively mocking you in what you're going after. I think you got to cut them out of your life. I really do. And I'm giving this advice to someone who's taking it, who's been very, very difficult to do that. And I don't say it lightly. I don't say, tomorrow call them up and get rid of them, right? But I'm trying to plant more of a seed of, start to reassess perhaps who you have in your life to support you, who you have that are friends, and are they going to be the ones that are going to be backing you when the time comes. Maybe some people can have that balance. Perhaps some people can have the people that in your life that, listen, you're a friend of convenience. You're people that, if I ever really needed your help, if I needed, to be bailed out of jail at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? Would you show up with money to get me out? Yeah, you probably wouldn't be there, but I can talk sports with you, and I can come maybe play a card game with you once a month or something like that. Perhaps some people can have that in their life, and if you can, awesome. But I think if you're going after something very ambitious and you really are a dreamer, you've got to have people that are backing you. You've got to have it, and any doubt is the absolute worst thing. Any doubt from anybody is the worst thing. And so for myself, and perhaps it's an idea I'm trying to present, if you find yourself in a very similar situation, is really consider weeding people out or finding where they stand. For me, the big thing that really kind of pushed this, the big catalyst, was as I began the self-publishing process here, and as I was thinking about it, a month ago, as I was kind of winding down with my short stories, I started thinking, okay, so my book's gonna come out here in the fall. How many friends can I really depend upon to buy the book? Of all the friends I have, how many of them are actually going to buy it when it comes out? How many of them are actually going to spend, I'm not sure the price point will be, but we'll just say, I don't know, $12, $15, whatever it is. How many of them are going to spend that much money on a book that you spent years writing, since 2018? So you spent 5 years working on this. How many of them are going to do that? And I asked myself that over and over. That question was kind of in the back of my mind for a while. And it's sad to say, but there's at least quite a few of them that I considered, again, friends of different degrees and of different, convenience, that won't do it. That I know going into this process will not buy my book. That will not spend that kind of money on it. And of those that buy the book, how many would actually read more than the opening chapter? And granted, not all of them are readers. Like the good amount of my friends do not like books. They're not book readers by any means. And the types of books they tend to read would not be my genre. So understandably, it may not be something that they, would find that entertaining. But how many of them would at least, read past maybe the first chapter, but beyond just a passing glance when they first get it, beyond just looking at, the cover design or something like that, noticing it? How many would read more than that? The answer again was even less than slightly less than the people that would buy it, which is already, I think, is probably going to be a small number. And once I did that, I think internally I've had my answer. I've sort of known since then that, yeah, these are people that are not going to back you, and you're at kind of a precipice right now, and this is me talking to myself, but there's a chance to really start doing some great work here, but you can't have other people putting you down, holding you back, even passively just doing their own thing and saying, yeah, whatever, right? Which I would kill for. I would have killed for that. I would have killed to have people that were just doing that. So, I guess to summarize this and to find some kind of conclusion to this, reassess it. Reassess who's supporting you. Reassess who you have in your life that are backing you. I'm fortunate that I do have friends and do have family, do have a spouse that's extremely supportive, but there's not many. A lot less than I realized, and I'm imagining that if you're creative, you might be in the same boat.